there's not a lot of room for insecurity. And I can say that I could always tell, like, when I'm making this job too big, when I'm feeling insecure, or like this job is too big. It's too big in my own soul. I'm letting it take up too much room. Like, I have to be bigger on the inside than I am on the outside with this job.
Hey, what's up, ReLeaders? Thanks for joining for another episode of the ReLeader Podcast. If you're new to the podcast, we talk about stuff that we didn't break, or we talk about taking over organizations we didn't build. A lot of leaders built things, grew things, started things, not us. We are a group of people who took over somebody else's problems or somebody else's solutions, and we are trying to continue it on. And we are a tight-knit group. I'm so glad you're here. If you want to dive a little bit deeper, you can go to ReLeader.co. It's a great community of ReLeaders that I put up content every week on there. You can comment on it, find community with other ReLeaders all around the world. And so it's a free subscription. You can jump on there. We've got a book. We've got all kinds of resources. So you can go to ReLeader.co for that. If you're joining us, if you like this podcast, share it, man. Give us ratings, comment on it, put it on your social media pages. ReLeaders know ReLeaders. So spread the word to your friends about what we're doing here. So today I have a couple of guests with me, and they're not guests. They're my buddies, and they're my friends, and they're people that I've worked with. They're Wade Smith. Wade Smith serves with me at Victory Church. He's on our DLT, our directional leadership team. And he's been with me since I started at Victory Church all the way back to 2011. And my other guest is Dr. Rhonda Davis. And Dr. Davis was with me at the King's University. And she served as my right-hand woman, not right-hand man.
That's right.
That's right. She was the executive vice president at the King's University, and both of these guys and gals are ReLeaders. That's what they do, but from a different perspective, and that's what I want to talk about today. There's a lot of our listeners that you may not be the senior pastor, you may not be the president, you may not be the CEO, you may be a vice president, you may be a campus pastor, you may be a director or a leader in other capacities. And so what does ReLeading look like for you? And so Rhonda will be able to speak to some context, as she was at TKU when I came in. So she was there. She helped me ReLead it, but she was there when I got there. So she had to kind of get used to a new guy coming in. I don't know this guy. Whereas Wade stepped into ReLeading with me. We did it kind of simultaneously. So a little bit of different perspective there, but I'm excited you guys are on.
Yeah. I feel a little insecure. You both have doctors before your names.
We can call you Doctor.
Yeah.
Dr. Wade Smith.
That makes me
Dr.
feel so
Wade.
much better.
We could call you Bishop.
Bishop. Yeah.
I like
Maybe
that.
so.
Bishop
great.
Wade.
A little strange.
Well, I love you both. You guys are both amazing leaders. It's and was an honor to serve alongside you guys. And there's a old saying that says behind every great leader is other people rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
And you guys, if I was even close to a good leader, a lot of it is because of you guys. So, thank you for what you did for me and continue to do for me. But let's just chat.
Yeah.
Let's chat it up.
Yeah.
So what was it like working for Jon? No, I don't want to talk.
This is a little intimidating because you have the privilege of, you used to work for him now.
Yeah.
If
Right,
I say
I know,
anything,
you're
She can
really
say
in
whatever
the
she
hot
wants.
seat.
She's like, Jon was a
harm me.
jerk.
Right?
My current role.
You better
that's
tread
exactly right.
easy.
I'll let you do all the talking. I'll just pipe in.
Yeah.
once in a while.
So let's talk. Maybe the first time. Maybe there's people out there, Rhonda, that they were already at the organization and they had a shift in leadership, and now they're having to figure out how to work with. How do I build trust, and how do I get to know this person? And there's probably fear of, is he just going to wipe the slate clean and fire all of us? And how did that feel? Was that an odd feeling, being on the receiving end of a ReLeader coming in? Was that?
Yeah, it can be tough. I think you gotta be willing to kind of play the long game with it, pay attention, build trust. You're building trust at the same time as everybody else, right? So you just credit trust where it's needed and keep walking it out while you still, I think one of the things that can be hard is like, what baggage do I need to lay down and keep to continue, or what do I need to? How do I let him know where all the mines are?
Yeah,
right.
Really good.
Like,
it's really good.
What mines do we ignore? What mines do we pay attention to? So I think that can be kind of hard if you're already there or have history.
Well, yeah. Is there a feeling that, man, I've been here for how many years were you there before I got there? Not a ton.
No,
a couple years.
A couple years, yeah.
But there's got to be feelings of, man, we've worked for several years to get where we are.
Right.
And are we just going to
change it all?
Yeah. What do we do? What's really important? I think you stop to like reevaluate, I'm sure you guys did that at the church.
Mm-hmm.
What really matters to us, what's most important.
Yeah.
And then you kind of sit in a seat where you're able to help the senior leader amplify that. Like, this is what we're all about. This is where we're going. And that's an honor to do. But yeah, what history do we want to keep with us? What do we want to leave back there?
Yeah. So. Was there ever, and some of this is an investigation for me after the fact, was there ever like, and I'm just trying to figure out dynamics and cultures of when a ReLeader comes in, because most of my teaching content is about to the ReLeader, the senior leader in a sense. Right. But I'm inquisitive and interested in the dynamics to the team when a person comes in, and the unrest and the unknown, and was there, being at a senior level position, was there a lot of chatter down below, like, what's Jon like, and can we trust this guy, and is he going to change everything, and like,
do we run out with our hair on fire?
Right. You kind of had to manage this in between. You're reporting to me about the people, and you're reporting to the people about me.
Yeah. And that goes on.
Yeah.
That's second chair, right?
Yeah, we do that a lot.
That's a second chair thing all the time.
Yeah. You're kind of leading up and down. You're leading and following. Yeah.
Which is the biggest challenge of a second chair is, sometimes, like in this situation, I mean, you guys protected him from some things, but then there's some things that you figuring out what do I take to Jon? What do I not take to Jon?
Right.
And what do I communicate for Jon?
Yeah.
Like, I think the biggest thing is knowing your heart.
Yeah.
Knowing the heart of your leader, and knowing when you would want to be involved. For instance, we just had a situation at the church, right, where there was some kind of an issue that popped up, and I had to decide, does Jon, I think he wants to know this one. I think he would like to hear about this one, and this is going to bother him. But I know it's hard enough to know that he would want to know about this. And I can communicate for him, but what is it that I communicate without him knowing, and what is it that I communicate? Am I getting mad at you that you told me or that you didn't tell me? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And you got to weigh tension, that.
Yeah.
And that comes up through time, I think, through relationship. And
well, and ours was so unique because, for 5 years, I was leading both.
Yeah.
And so all of that's amplified even more. And there's a lot of leaders that juggle a lot of things. And so if I'm ingrained at the university on certain days, how do you know when to bring me something and when not to bring it and when to bring it? And
how'd you figure that out, Wade?
Curious.
I did a lot of, I failed
too.
a lot. We got to a place where I would just send him a text message and say, hey, are you available?
Yeah.
And he's really good about saying, yeah, and he'll call you back immediately. Even though you were leading two places, you did a good job of staying present at both. But I think it required us to find out your rhythms, to know what I knew on Mondays it's probably not the best time to reach out to you unless it's important. And then I would just send a text message, hey, if you got 5 minutes today.
Well, it is interesting that I don't know that I've ever had two people from both, one from each organization present in a podcast. Because the question I used to get all the time is how do you lead two organizations? And I just always said, well, I don't. I lead the people that do. And you guys are two of those people that did that. So this second chair conversation is really important for that reason is how did you do that?
Yeah.
How did you manage those tensions?
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. I know, but it's probably harder on you guys than anybody. I'm not going to cry. I'm just kidding.
I feel like it was a learning process.
Absolutely.
And now that we're not in that season currently, maybe at some point again, but I think the learnings were valuable even for now. I mean, I think anytime you're a second chair leader, what we just talked about, learning your leader is one of the most important things you do. Right. Knowing their rhythm.
I think so too.
personality
Yeah, and
preferences.
personality, when is it? I mean, I'll be transparent. I can tell through a quick conversation whether it's a good time to bring something to you or not.
100%.
If your mind is somewhere else or
Yes.
or you're frustrated, and I try to
That's when you back out of the conversation slowly.
you know. But there are people that do that for us too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that sit just below us, and so I try to always say I want to serve my leader the way that I want to be served.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there are times that I don't want stuff brought to me, so I just back off. But anyway.
And, ReLeading, there's so, you talk about this all the time. There's so many big rocks that you're trying to consider.
Yeah.
And, in terms of what's really important to us, what do I need to spend the majority of my attention on? So as a second chair, all of that information.
Yeah.
You always have all of the information, good and bad information about whatever's about to happen or not happen or whatever.
Yep.
And so you're holding all of the information from the bottom up and
That's
the top
really good.
down.
That's true.
Really,
it all
really
converges right there.
Yeah.
it
And
does.
That's
so,
such a great thought.
Okay, I need to know at what time do
That's
I
interesting.
give this? At what time do I prompt this? So for me, that was a big piece of the ReLeading is because that's culture building too, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because information and language builds culture. So how do I prep the ground on each side? I think that was a big
really good.
lesson. A big lesson for me.
Well,
knowing the leader, knowing when John's going to come in and say, and kind of how do I prep that?
And we always say ReLeading is a long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I remember sitting often in my office and hearing you talk about these are the things I want to do. This is where I want to take the staff. I want to do staff development here, and you're having to manage all these tensions of the things I want to get to, the dreams I have. I've never thought about that before. I don't know why, but I've never thought about the tension of the second chair of holding. I only hold the top visionary things,
Right.
Right.
Right, and then I don't want to say the lowers because it's a terrible word for it, but the constituencies, the followers, the staff, they only hold the tensions from down there. But the second chair is this chair that holds the tensions of both. Yeah, and that's a real challenge.
And one of the tensions sometimes is understanding both sides. So it's like, I totally see John's point of view, and I totally see this person's point of view.
Yep.
And so I find myself sometimes being an advocate for both. So sometimes I'm going to John early, like I'll try to catch him before a meeting happens that I think maybe this comes up.
Yep.
And I'll say, hey, if you got 5 minutes, this is what they're thinking through. I at least want to give him a little bit, somewhat of a perspective, because if it comes up in a meeting, there's going to be that tension. And I'm the only one, or me and a couple other people are the only ones that really know it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, because what I want to do in the meeting setting is I want to make sure that I always err citing in John's direction. If there's something that's going to be a point of tension, I want to make sure that I always present this idea that we are together. But if there's something that's really of concern that they have, I want to make sure that I also communicate so that he comes in with a different. You come in with and you're already this way. You care about what people say. You care about their hearts and what's on their minds. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I've prepped you for it.
Yeah, and I may not know.
Yeah,
I'm going blind if you don't tell me.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
And you could also make the argument that there's actually a third tension you guys carry. So you have the tension from the top. You have the tension from the staff, and in both situations, different context, you also carry the tensions of the congregation, and you also carry the tensions of the students at TKU.
Yeah.
So you're hearing what the students are saying. You're managing that tension. Should we deal with that? You're hearing from the staff. Should I deal with that? And you're carrying the tension of budgets that you're aware of. Direction you're aware of, limitations you're aware of from the top down. So, man, I think all of the second chair people are like, yes,
I know. We don't talk. I think about it kind of as like, I had a friend that would talk about it as the middle leader, kind of middle.
Maybe that's a better term than second chair.
The middle. I mean, anybody that's like
in
you're
the middle.
saying,
Even
in
if
the
you're not
middle
second,
of it, right?
Third, fourth, whatever.
leading up and down, it's all tensions to be
That's
managed.
really good.
It is.
All the way around.
And I've written about that before in some of my articles, but there's so many, what's difficult about ministry or just leadership in all leadership really is you're never done. You never clock out at the end of the day and you're just like, I'm done, And, we all have I wrote about this a long time ago, our walk away job. And
yeah,
we've talked about that before. I can't remember what yours was. Mine, I want to drive a bulldozer.
Oh, I was a dry cleaning pants presser.
Yeah, that was, hers is a dry, like pressing, like
Pressing
at a dry
pants at the
cleaner.
dry cleaner.
That's
yeah.
insane.
Right?
That's
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
work. That's hard.
Yeah, that would drive me crazy because I don't know that you could get
It's
it
worse
perfect.
than a bulldozer.
Feels like
I
slave
don't
labor.
I
know.
would just
Like,
mow
that's
lawns.
terrible.
I like
Hey,
to mow
that's
lawns.
good.
Oh, that's terrible too. It's 110 degrees.
Yeah,
outside.
Well,
but
anyway.
I'm in an
when I-
air conditioned cab.
Yeah.
Oh,
running
man.
over stuff,
True.
plowing stuff down.
Smashing
I'm
it.
destroying stuff.
Yeah.
But we all have that, I've written about that before, like our daydream job because really what we're saying is a job where when I clock out,
I'm done.
I'm done. I don't have to
Yeah.
think about this thing.
Yes.
I went golfing the other day with a guy. I don't want to name the industry he's in, and I didn't know him. I just got paired up with him. And he told me what he did, and I didn't mean to, but it just came out. I go, oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. You're done.
And he was like, because it wasn't like some amazing job,
Yeah.
Right.
but it was a clock in, clock out job.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm going home.
Right.
Don't call me. You can't text me. You can't email me.
Yep.
So
That's why the middle is just as much as calling as the top.
It is.
100%.
I think you have to know, especially in a ReLeading, if you aren't the original established team, even if you are, you have to know as much that you're called to that kind of leadership as you do senior
100%.
leadership.
Yeah, I agree.
And we don't talk about it near enough in leadership.
No, we act like it's a stepping stone.
It's always it's presented that way. And then if you feel like that you're called to it, then you can fight the feelings of you're less than.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the lead pastor.
Second.
I'm not
why do we
the-
even use that word?
I'm not the business owner, but I'm, in a lot of ways, you're making a lot of things happen within the organization.
It's critical.
Mm-hmm.
It's critical.
Yeah.
I would say I'm making this up as I go, and you guys can tell me if you think I'm wrong, but let's say you were going to go, I know I'm right on this actually. Let's say an organization was going to be required to go 12 months without one of them. You can go 12 months without the leader, the CFO, president, or you can go 12 months without any middle people. You have to have the middle people.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a leader eventually. But if you're going to go 6 months, 12 months, you could totally pull it off without the leader,
Right.
for 12 months.
Well, there's times in I even think back to when you went to TKU. It's not that you completely stepped out, but there was the very beginning,
massive shift.
you had to focus your energy at TKU.
Yep.
It was brand new. You were learning your new role there. And so I remember there was a point, and I think Oscar probably felt this way too. We may even had discussion about it. There was a point where we just had to say, you know what? I have to make that decision.
It's time to go. Yep.
And there was that loyal side of us wants you to be in on those decisions. But there was a point where we said, it's better for him. It's better for the organization.
Yep.
If we make this call, and if we mess up, okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we're better off making that decision now than we are waiting till he returns or waiting till he's available.
Yeah. And I told you guys early on, if you're in a room and the decision needs to be made, don't say, let me call John. Just make a decision.
Yep.
We'll figure it out.
That's kind of why it seems like it only works if it's only really fruitful if there's an empowering
Absolutely.
Yes.
leadership structure there, or leadership style.
Well, what I realized, I learned something in that process is whenever I was first contemplating the idea of going to TKU, and I was with Pastor Craig one time, and I said, and I just didn't know. I said, man, I don't know if these guys can do it. I don't know. I've never seen them. I've never seen them do that before. I've never seen them step up to that level of leadership. And he was like, well, you're the problem. When you get out of the way, they'll flourish because so many times the second person is so loyal to the leader that they'll honor them. And so the leader becomes the lid of them flourishing to their full capacity. And he was right. When I moved out of the way, you guys just stepped into it in fullness and grew and became the leaders that you are today. So it really is that empowering.
Yeah.
Can I say something else?
Yeah.
It keeps your leaders too.
Yeah.
So people that are good leaders, they want the opportunity. They want to lead.
Absolutely.
And what happens a lot of times, I think, is the lead leader, the head leader, wants to stay involved, and they think they're doing a really good job by being involved with everything. Like, I'm involved with it. The problem is what they're doing is they're limiting the next level.
They're the lid.
And I think there's people like us. We want to stay where we're at for as long as we can, but we just want to be able to lead too.
Yeah,
like
you want to be able to go and lead. Yeah.
And use the giftings that God has given you, and go home at night feeling like you made a difference.
Absolutely. And using your gifts, your talents. And that's one of the reasons why at both organizations we set up the SLT, is we wanted to push decision-making down further into the organization and empower other people to lead. Because most organizations aren't exploding in growth. It's just very rare. We look at those and we all want to be like those churches or those universities or those businesses. But for the majority of us, we're just steady, maybe 1% growth, 2% growth, 3% growth, something like that. But the problem with those organizations, the majority of organizations, is there's not enough growth to have enough leadership opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So there's no track, right? So anytime we can create spaces for people to lead, I mean, you're going to win. You're going to retain. It's a retention issue.
Yeah.
One of the things that's part of what makes it fun for me, I don't know about you, Wade, but is you get to you're kind of like the biggest utility player of the whole. You are the utility
like a Swiss
player.
Army
like
knife.
If there's a gap, you get to kind of fill, or you get to notice when there's leadership around that needs to be called out of people. You're the one that gets to see that and mobilize those leaders. And that's really fun. You also get to have a wide perspective of the whole organization, Yeah, I got to know a lot about my area that I specifically oversee, but I also get to keep my head up and look at the whole thing so that I can keep leading up. And I think that's fun. I don't know if I have something weird about me.
No, it is fun.
that makes that fun, but that's
part of the calling.
It's part of the calling, for sure.
So.
Being able to get in the weeds at times and get there and
fix the stuff.
But at the same time raise back up and say, okay, still keep a perspective that's higher.
Well, so much even of the, we always say that the primary leader is the visionary, the one that's the mountain we're taking or whatever, which is true. But I'll also say that middle management, middle, second chair, whatever you want to call it, they have such an important role on the trajectory of the organization, because they're the one that's seeing what's happening and reporting to leadership, hey, this is what's happening. And so, if you want to say they're the binoculars the leader looks through, whatever analogy you want to use, so much of what you guys would bring to the leadership or to me is what helps me make decisions on what we need to do.
Right.
And so there's such a big part to play in the trajectory of the organization.
Yeah. And that's what it is, figuring out, what do I take to Jon and what do I not? Like, what do I lead? What decisions do I make? And you mentioned a third, person that there's tension with, like the congregation.
Oh man,
for me,
that was even
students
harder.
For you.
Yeah.
Going back to that time that you moved and went to TKU, there was times that people would come to me upset about that.
Yep.
And I would be able to disarm that without it ever getting to you.
Yeah.
And I think that part of that's because I knew your heart. I knew we'd worked together for a while as it is. But that's just part of that role.
Yeah.
Like, your role is to help people be at ease with where you're going, because change is hard for anybody. And so in the middle of change, that middle role is very important to keeping everybody happy. You're keeping, in a lot of ways, you need to keep your boss happy, right? But you also have to keep those below you happy and change.
How do you manage the tension of the, because you've said it a couple times, and I know Rhonda's done it for me in the past too, is you kind of act as a barrier. Like, you'll keep, not that I want to be this protected person in my college, but there are times that you guys, stuff I just don't need to know or hear. So you guys become this shield in a sense. So all these fiery darts hit you guys that never come to me.
Right.
And the same is true. I get darts from other places that you guys never get. So I understand some of the pain of that. But how do you manage the tension of the if you're bombarded with negativity, like how do you keep that from impacting your soul, but then also spreading to those that you lead and things like that, Is there certain things you guys have done?
When there's themes, if there's something that I think is, well, first of all, if I think it's not true, I don't do it at all. Like that's one that I filter that first. Is there validity here? The second would be, is this like a one-off? Is this one person upset?
Right.
Or is this like
everyone is mad about this?
Yeah, they always. That's the thing everybody says, and then you ask them who, and they can't come up with anybody.
Well, there's one guy's brother.
One of the persons.
It's like the social media influencer. Hey guys, I've had so many DMs.
Yeah, that's exactly
right.
How many?
So I've started asking, who are we talking about?
Yes.
And so
how many?
Yeah. So then, if there's a real potential fire, then it's important. But some of those fires, it's we can put out as well. But it's not about, like I know you don't want to be protected from everything, but there's some things it's one, they're distractions. And two, God's equipped us to handle these as well. So we want to make sure we're, not just protecting you, but keeping you're able to stay focused on what you can stay focused on.
Yeah.
And we can handle some of these things that aren't huge. But if there's a theme, and I think there's validity, I know you're hard enough to know you want to know those things, because there may be some things that you want to do, or a message that you want to preach around this, or whatever it may be, whatever.
That's great.
Yeah. I think there's not a lot of room for insecurity at the middle leader level. That gets kind of knocked out of you, because either people are coming to you because they want you to celebrate their accomplishments to the senior leader.
Oh, wow.
Or they're at a level 10 anxiety. They're not coming to you to be like, you did great.
I'm doing great.
Everything's good.
Right. That's exactly.
They're either like, please tell them how great I am.
Yeah.
Or
tell them how mad I am.
This is horrible.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of, you gotta
you don't get a lot of, just tell John that you guys are doing awesome.
Tell them, we're fine. That's never true.
That's right.
Ever.
Yep.
So there's not a lot of room for insecurity. And I can say that I could always tell, like when I'm making this job too big, when I'm feeling insecure, or like this job is too big. It's too big in my own soul. I'm letting it take up too much room. Like I have to be bigger on the inside than I am on the outside with this job.
That's really good.
When I feel like I don't want to tell them that you're doing great, like, or whatever, fill in the blank. Or I don't think that I can put any more anxiety out today, so I think learning those things about myself is a big deal. Where those points are for me, where I need to just say, hold up a minute, what are those rhythms that keep me able to celebrate great wins and differentiate from the job. I think probably because you just can't do this well and enjoy the fruit of it if you're insecure, or if your soul isn't strong enough to handle it. I don't know about you, but that was a big deal for me.
No, that's really good.
Yeah, and I think going with that and on the insecurity, I think something early on that I realized, usually, and this is me being vulnerable with my boss here, but usually in the middle spot, you don't get a lot of credit for the success,
100%,
but you get all the credit for the things that aren't going right, because in a church world, people tend to look up to the lead pastor in a really sometimes unhealthy way.
Very.
So the lead pastor can be this like unapproachable but yet perfect person.
So true.
And the
closer you get to anybody, you realize they're just flawed. So if the pastor's untouchable, they're even more
exactly
worshipped in a sense.
And so if it's going wrong, it's got to be another reason.
Interesting.
And so
that's very true.
Typically,
it's
like so at a campus pastor level, if the campus isn't doing well, it's got to be the campus.
The offering sucked. Who took up the offering this week? But wasn't the sermon. It must have been the campus pastor.
But if you're not careful what you said, I mean, you were kind of a counseling session was just happening. So honestly, what you said is so true. You have to be secure in who you are and know what you're called to. And if you're not careful, you'll allow their negativity.
Yeah.
You'll start to believe it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That you are the issue here.
Yep.
Like if you just got out of the way, this would all be okay.
It's so true. It's like the it's like the sound guy at church. No one notices the sound guy unless something goes wrong.
Right, exactly.
But if the sound man crushes it and has a perfect, flawless service,
no one
not
praises
one person thought of that guy.
Yeah.
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 True.
And ReLeading, I mean, you're trying to build something, either rebuild it, restart it, fix it, all those kinds of things. You can start to believe press of like, this isn't me. I could do it better this way, or this is, and like that's the work of the enemy, to divide in a fragile situation, I would say.
Yep.
Unless it's really an inward look at your own calling.
Yeah.
But man, when things are already fractured, and you're just trying to build on top of something, or, all the scenarios that ReLeading comes into play, you can just start to believe a lot of lies about yourself, about your calling, about your leader, about the people, because you're kind of the one at the gate. So
I also think, I've never done any content on this before, but I also think that in ReLeading, what you were saying there sparked this. It's why it's really important to lead as a team.
Yeah.
Trying to imagine what it would be like to ReLead as a dictator, where it's like, I just come in and I meet with the lead team and I'm just barking orders and they go carry them out. Whereas, hopefully whenever you guys are having to go out to, pull the trigger on whatever we decide to do, it was a collective.
That's right.
Always.
We came together, we agreed, we may not agree in the meeting, but when we leave, we're on the same page. Otherwise, you're like, man, you're going out trying to fix things that are broken, and you don't even think that what you're having to do is going to work.
Yeah.
You would do it a different way completely.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't even do this. I think John's an idiot. I think we should do this. But so if you have a leader, if you're trying to ReLead and the leader's very demonstrative and controlling, I don't know that would work.
I don't think so either.
I don't. Yeah.
It also helps alleviate some of the insecurities, because you know that the decisions weren't made by you. Like you made this as a team. We did that this morning.
Yeah.
You, Oscar, and I got on a Zoom call, and then Oscar and I went and we led the team meeting, and so I think it helps with that. Obviously, I think that a relational leadership is the best model, and I know for me, I wouldn't be under a dictator. I wouldn't last very long. I wouldn't be able to middle lead, because I have to know the heart of my leader.
Right.
There has to be relationship there.
Yeah.
And because of that, I feel like there's times we'll charge the hill for you. You know that. We do it, and we'll continue to do it. We'll charge the hill because we know your heart, and we do this together. One of the speaking of that real quick, one of the things that we just were talking about a lot when we transitioned. So to give some context, I just moved from Edmond, Oklahoma to Grapevine to help lead the Grapevine campus. And we did this transition period in that where we were passing it off to the associate pastor, who's amazing. But we felt it was best to transition over time than just to do it immediately. But one of the things we kept saying at the Edmond campus that's really true to who we are, it's not a core value yet, but it's true to who we are. We kept saying we don't lead alone. We don't. So I wanted to set this idea up that, one, I don't lead alone.
Yeah.
Right.
I lead, and I said this all the time, we lead as a DLT. I talk with Pastor John all the time.
Yep.
Cameron's not going to be left alone.
Absolutely.
So when we make this transition, guess what? It's not now Cameron's just in charge. So it sets him up in a healthy way that people realize, and it also in their minds, now they're like, oh, okay, this is a team environment.
Yeah, he represents the team, not his own individual.
Yeah.
And I think that's just healthy, that you don't lead alone.
Absolutely.
I don't think anybody should lead alone.
No. And it diversifies the credit and the blame.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. Whose fault was this? Well, it was the lead team. They did it together. The whole bunch of idiots, all of them.
Yeah.
But man, I can lead a long way in hard terrain with people who are in the trenches with me.
Yeah, that's really good.
Like, in fact, it's inspiring to do that, and fun. I mean, we all have our war stories together. We all have, like, remember when we battled it out on that? I mean, but man, you can go a long way with people who battled it out with you.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot, about how when you're in the trenches and bullets are flying, it bonds a team together.
Yeah.
Sometimes hardship. That's why ReLeaders, I think, really do bond with the people that they ReLead with, because when you're going through hell, there's just a bond that happens, man.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're like, I had a bunch of fun with a bunch of people in high school. I don't talk to any of those losers anymore.
Yep.
Sorry if you're listening and you went to
Right.
but I don't talk to them anymore. But I didn't go through any battles with them. I didn't go through hardships. We were just kids having fun, having a good time.
Yeah.
But man, these guys that I led the church with and TKU, we're blood, man.
Yeah.
Like blood.
I think there's a lot of middle leaders out there who are ReLeading and who may feel alone or isolated or like, why am I doing this again? You know? And so your story of sticking it out and moving around and like, that's inspiring. Like you can do this. It's a calling. You can hold out, get to know your leader.
That's what I would say too.
Get to know them.
That's huge. It's just as much our responsibility to get to know our leader. And if you feel like you have a leader right now that you can't approach, well, have you tried to?
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe your approach was the wrong way.
Right.
Like maybe you were trying at a time that they weren't ready for that.
Yeah.
I would say just keep trying to build a relationship.
Just lean into the awkward of it.
Yeah.
Like,
and even tell them, I feel like I don't have a relationship with
and know them, right?
Well,
like,
I need that.
There's just certain people that I can be in a relationship with, but I know we're never going to be BFFs.
Yeah.
We're not going to be best friends.
Yeah.
But I can seek out relationship if I know the person. So I don't know when it's going to air, but we're going to do an entire podcast episode on the life languages test. And it's my favorite. There's, Myers-Briggs and all of them, but I love life languages. It's my favorite. I made you take it,
yes.
I think. So I'm having one of their coaches come on the podcast and we're going to talk about it. But my point is, like, if your leader is a shaper mover, which is like, let's go, visionary, that's me.
Which you are.
I'm shaper mover. I don't want to debate. I don't want to debrief. For the love of God, can we not debrief? I don't want to contemplate. I don't want to talk feelings. I want to talk facts. Let's go.
Yeah.
If my leader is a high feeler, man, I don't know how to get along with that person very well. So I'm gonna have to approach that person differently. And if you're a high feeler, and most leaders are shaper movers. Yeah. Most of them are not all, but a lot of them are shaper movers.
Yep.
And so if you're sending your boss leader 4-page emails, good luck.
I know.
You better be sending some bullet points.
I like bullet points.
You better. They don't want to know about your feelings. They don't want to know. They don't want a 30-minute talk. They want a 2-minute talk. And you just learn it. Approach them where they're at. Yeah. Right. It's our job. If we want to build a relationship with somebody, I got to meet them where they're at.
It's our job to. It's both sides. So it's our job to learn that. Like if I'm not a feeler, you know that. But if I was sending you 4-page emails, and I recognized real quickly you weren't reading them, then maybe I should send it differently.
Well, and here's the thing.
Yeah.
I need contemplators.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I want everybody to be like me.
Right.
For the love of God, if everybody's like me, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I need strategic thinkers. You have some contemplator in you. You have contemplator. You're very strategic. You like to debrief. You like to talk stuff. And I can do it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
But you know how to approach me. Yeah. Like Rhonda knew I'm sending John a voice text. She'd send me 1 million voice texts. That's great. I love that. But
just 30 seconds at a time.
Yeah, 30 seconds at a time. Yeah. But she knew that she didn't need to call me and just keep rambling on and on and on. And I would have disengaged. And what would have happened, and this is what I think a lot of middle leadership experiences, is I would slowly but surely push you away.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
I would slowly but surely, not because I don't like you, not because you're a bad person, not because you're a bad leader, but because I don't like the way you're communicating to me. It's not my style. And
I think that's natural to us.
Totally.
Anyway.
It is.
Yeah.
So I would slowly disengage over time, most likely. You would feel neglected, and we all know where that ends up. It just doesn't end well. So I think a lot of that breakdown is because we don't understand each other, and we need to understand our people and who we lead, and vice versa.
Yeah, and you talking about pushing. If you feel like you're being pushed away right now, if there's a middle leader feeling that way, I think the first question instead of just pointing the finger at the leader and saying, "Well, the leader's he's untouchable, doesn't want time on me," and that might be true. It actually might be true. But I think the first thing you should ask yourself is, am I doing something that's causing that? And so, it may not be that your leader is untouchable or doesn't want time. They may be true they don't want time with you, but is there something that you're doing
Yeah.
to
the way you're
that?
approaching them.
Yep.
Yep.
If we'll go inward first and
Yeah.
figure that out, and then maybe the answer still is the same.
And I highly encourage organizations to, like at Victory Church, we do the life languages, all the staff, everybody takes it. We all know who each other is. That way we know how to approach people.
Right.
If somebody's a high feeler, what do they call the feeler in life languages?
It's feeler.
No, it's
responder.
responder.
By the way, everybody else on the team at Grapevine, I found out is responders.
Oh, they're
listening to this right now.
Hey.
We need you. We need you.
We need all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Right?
all,
That's
but
right.
isn't that interesting? They're all responders, which is kind of, I think it's interesting where we are as a campus.
Well, we're in the early days.
Early
we need
days.
to pastor.
They
We need to
need
care. We need to
pastor.
love. We need to feel.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And
anyway,
God
But
knows,
looking for,
God knows what we want.
I
We
love
need-
what you said, looking inside first, again, because there's no room for insecurity.
That's good.
Like, what is making me feel, is this real?
Yeah.
Is this true?
Mm.
I've had to ask myself that so many times.
Yeah.
Just like,
Hmm.
am I making an assumption or do I know this
Yep.
actually to be true?
Yep.
You know?
Right.
And
Well,
if there's no reason for me to be insecure, maybe I'm just talking too much.
yeah.
Maybe I
Maybe I'm
should
sending
just,
too long an email.
Yeah, maybe it's just as simple as
Well,
that.
it's the easiest go-to first, right? I spend a lot of time with myself, so it's easy to go to myself first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't spend a lot of time with my boss. It's hard to get to him. Well, let me start here. Let me start
Right.
with the easiest accessible person in the relationship is me. So I think that's great to start there, and that's the Holy Spirit, right? I mean, we're Christians, and not all of our listeners are, but in our context,
Mm-hmm.
all right, Holy Spirit, is there something in me that
Mm-hmm.
I'm off? You
And
know?
what would go a long way, I think, with a leader is when you go to him and say, listen, I recognize that I've done some things
preach.
that's caused some
They're so
tension or some
Yeah.
some distance here. And I just want you to know I'm sorry for that.
Which
I'm going to do a much better job of leading up and following well. And I just
Great.
wanted you to know that. And I'm not with no expectation.
And one of the
Yes.
most attractive
great.
things to anybody, but leaders, is when people have self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
That would go a
I
long
saw
ways.
something in myself, and I'd be like, wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and
Because I
leaders
think
need to
it's
do the same.
we're talking church world and everything right here, and this is, I think, true of any believers trying to build something, trying to relead something. The easiest break is between the senior leader, the visionary leader, whatever that looks like, and the one who's responsible for carrying that out, for operationalizing that, for amplifying those words, for carrying that language into the rest of the organization. So the easiest point of attack
It's good.
is right there,
Yeah.
right? Is right in between.
You break
that
it all down with
relationship.
that one,
Yeah.
one joint.
yeah,
Or
one
you can
spot.
have cross. Like, I can listen to what you say, and you're not there every day. I can say what I would like to say.
Mm.
You know, like
That's true.
dangerous.
Yeah,
Yep.
very
It's a dangerous place to be if it's not right. So being aware of my own soul, what I'm needing in my own self, my own awareness, doing the work on me that I need to do as a leader, so that we're all healthy together, and we can have different people on our team and not just ostracize them or isolate them, but listen to what they have to say. I think it's huge because
good.
it's such an easy point of attack.
It's such an easy point,
from the
especially
enemy.
if that person's insecure,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or if the key leader's insecure, and then that's infiltrating down into the,
Yeah.
you know, it can go both ways.
Yeah.
What do you guys think is the hardest part of ReLeading in general, or from your chair? I was thinking a while ago, I can't remember what said that sparked it, but in the first 2 or 3 years that we were ReLeading the church, it wasn't as bad at TKU. TKU wasn't in crisis when I got there. It needed some cultural things, you know, but for the most part, TKU was in pretty decent shape. The church was brutal. And I think for the first 2 or 3 years, I don't even know what we were doing.
Yeah. I try to remember back too.
It's just
I
a
do
blur.
remember one significant thing was we went to the ranch and we reestablished some vision stuff, which was really
Yeah. I've taught on a lot of that stuff. And what's funny is that I've gone back in my mind to the things we did.
Yeah.
And not all of it. We've done a lot of dumb things, but a lot of it, I was like, that was really smart of us.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't do that on purpose.
No.
Like it was just this instinctual.
It was instinctual.
Mhm.
It's reaction. Sometimes
Nobody
it was
told us you need to
reactionary.
do your core values and redo them and all that. We just did them.
Yeah.
And no one told me to tell the congregation to credit me trust. It's just the Lord helping us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my content, it's been funny as I've written a lot of my ReLeader content, as I've gone back and contemplated the pain and the struggles. We did a lot of really great things, but we didn't do it on purpose. It's like the Lord was just grace, you know?
It was grace, but it was also action. Like I think that it would have been very easy for us to just sit in the fetal position and not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back and I'm like, because I'm just even thinking through, as you were just talking just now, just certain things that we did. And a lot of it's, your leadership. You're a shaper and a mover.
Mm-hmm.
And your directional leadership team is a lot of shapers and movers as well. So, but we did take action. I think sometimes the important thing is to go ahead and take action. Trust your instincts, like you talked about, like you've instincts, trust your instincts. And if you get it wrong, go back and figure that out, but at least take action. I think that's something that we did. We at least took action.
So I'm pretty sure the podcast I'm referring to aired right before this one. So it was 2 weeks ago. I did a podcast called something, I can't remember the exact title, How to Lead Through the Suck. And because I was really interested in the thought that it's one thing to lead when you know things are off, but everyone else kind of really doesn't know.
Right.
It's a whole nother thing to lead when everybody knows that everything's and everybody feels the tension and everybody knows. I mean, you guys are processing through some ReLeader stuff right now where you're at, Rhonda. It's hard to lead in those times when everybody knows something's off. But I think the first 2 points were be real. Just, you got to call it out, man. You can't pretend like it's not there. You just got to say, hey, this sucks. Everybody, doesn't it? So you call it out. You're just real. And then you got to show hope. You got to, like you're saying, you got to do something. You can't just cry and get in a fetal position and have a pity party about how bad it sucks.
You got to move too.
You got to move. You got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the hardest things is just the fog of war.
Yep.
It just settles in. And I said the other day, like, I just can't pin down the fog. There'll be days, I think, where everybody's clear. We know what we're doing.
Wow.
We just got back from establishing some vision, some values, those kinds of things. We seem to be clear. And then there are days in a ReLeader's journey that is like, what in the world?
You don't feel like you're getting anywhere.
I don't think we are going anywhere.
Yep. That's so normal.
And that's
So
the hardest
normal.
part. And making sure if you're a middle leader in that season, like, when do I need to be encouraging? When do I need to just be present?
Yep.
When do I, because the fog sets in and, how can I clear the fog for whoever's feeling it today?
Well, in the fog, what I would
hard.
say a lot of times, and the only reason I say this is because our context, we're pastors, Christians. I actually received a word from somebody recently, like a prophetic word, and their word to me was, John, you've been in a lot of battles. And he referenced, when they would fight back in the 1700s, it was those old muskets, with the powder. And when they would fire those weapons, just huge billows of smoke. So the firing, the battlefields, you couldn't even see, like between the cannons and all the guns going off. It wasn't fog; it was actually smoke.
Wow.
It was battle smoke. And the word that he gave me was, you're entering into a season where the Lord is going to blow fresh wind to clear out the battle smoke.
Wow.
That's great.
From the years, and you got to think about that. It's been 9 years.
Yeah.
And there's still
residue, smoke.
Yeah.
So I think I'm always trying to set ReLeaders' expectations properly, because they think most ReLeaders go into 6 months in, a year in, 2 years in, we're going to be fine. And maybe, and I hope, Lord, I hope.
Yeah.
But it just takes a long time to clear that
long game. Yeah.
that fog, smoke, whatever you want to call it. So it just takes time.
Yeah.
Because we're in battle, you know? So.
Yeah. And kind of going back to your question of what's one of the hardest things, I don't know if it's the hardest thing, but in those seasons, for me, the hardest thing was not, there was no tension between you and I. It was going back to the team and trying to, they're not having the conversations with you that we're having. Yep. They don't know they're
not hearing the
hard on
vision
everything.
every day.
They don't know what you're upset about, what you're excited about. And so they just make assumptions. And so then you have to help in a smoky environment, foggy environment, try to clear the air or clear the fog a little bit, just where you're at, and bring some fresh perspective. So I would do this a lot. I would say, man, let me tell you about a conversation I just had with John. And so I would share your heart to the team, so they know, listen, we don't have a disconnected leader that doesn't understand what we're at, and you can't have those conversations with everybody. So I'm going to go back. And so I found myself, I think one of the hardest things is you find yourself in certain seasons, especially during transition or difficulty, you find yourself having the same type of conversations over and over again. But it's just, I look back and I'm like, every one of those was so important. And sometimes it's congregation, sometimes it's staff.
Well, and sometimes it's hard to find things to be optimistic about.
So you just keep saying the same one over and over again.
Like, let's see, we have all staff today. Surely there's something good happening around here that we can celebrate. But it's hard in those early days, man. It's hard to find wins and things to get excited about. And how does the leader project hope when honestly inside I'm a little hopeless at times. I'm struggling with how we're going to do this, and then I got to get up in front of a room full of people and inspire trust or inspire hope.
But some of your best moments, I look back, were not like these crazy hopeful messages. Sometimes it was just identifying that I know exactly where we are.
That's what I'm saying.
And I am with you right now.
Just be real.
It sucks.
Just be real.
So that's when I would go back and talk to people and say, hey, let me tell you about the conversation. Most of the time it wasn't like to bring a bunch of hope. It was just say, John gets it.
Yeah.
He's with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
We understand this is an issue, and this probably isn't going to get solved immediately.
Right.
Let's just
the beauty of what
just being clear, making everything
we
real.
believe as Bible-believing Christians is, even when we don't have anything to give hope for, there's always hope. You know what I mean? Like we always have this foundation of hope.
Yeah.
Of even when everything feels in the natural, like I don't know how to press forward, I don't know how to get through the fog, I don't know how to, if I'm the leader and I got to get up and project hope, there's always a well to draw from.
Yeah.
Because it's not a well that this world can give. And so I think it's important for leaders to because there are times, and I've been there, where I'm supposed to get up and inspire. I don't know where inspiration can come from right now, because there's not a whole lot of great things to share. But I think it's always important to just, we've always got something to lean back on, right? We've always got something to bring hope out of that well. So,
and in the second chair, it's an honor to carry that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's an honor.
Yep.
And to take that both directions.
Yeah.
There are days when it's the team and it's the staff, and there are days when you're sitting down with your leader and you're like, we can do this.
Yep.
Yeah. We can.
Yeah. You're bringing the hope.
Yeah.
You're the one bringing the hope.
Come on.
One thing I would encourage middle, second chair people to do, and I'm going to close in a minute. You can start thinking about something you would want to say to them, to those listeners, right? Or maybe you want to say something to the second chair person, or you want to say something to the leader so they better understand. And hopefully this whole podcast has done this.
I think a couple of things. I think the middle leader needs to hear that, I can't speak to their role and what they're doing right now, but I can speak to the fact that I understand the challenges at times. And so you need to, it's a hard role, and it's okay to acknowledge that it's a hard role. But the thing I would say is kind of goes back to what we said earlier. I just feel like that your role it hinges on your ability to have a great relationship with your leader. It may not be your best friend. You can define that definition of great relationship can be a lot of different things to different people. But if you're in a place where you're negative about your leader or you're frustrated with your leader, it's okay to have frustrations. But at the end of the day, if you listen to yourself, listen to what you're thinking through, and get that relationship right first.
Yep.
Even if it means I'm changing my perspective.
Yep.
Because you can't do your role.
And I would say that if you can't get there, then you probably need to leave.
Yep.
for your sake and for the sake of the organization. Because if you're left to sit in that for too long, it's going to start affecting your heart.
Festers,
and you're going to get
Absolutely.
infected, and then you're going to spread.
Yep.
Which is
You're
not good for the
poison
organization. Yeah,
at that point. So
yeah,
I think that's really important.
that's really good. Rhonda.
Yeah, I would just say if you've found yourself, whether this is what you sought after or this is what fell to you, you're called to this. So walk worthy of it.
That's good.
Walk worthy of the call and do your work. Take the time. You know, it wasn't until later in my leadership journey that I realized I had to have good rhythms so that those days of not feeling so much hope were both less and less and easier to bear, right? So do your own work first. Do your work first and live it out. Live it out. Live it out. Find those places where we were talking about the differences in the teams. Find what it is that you bring uniquely and keep bringing it. Keep bringing it, because I think we can shrink as the middle leader. We can shrink back or try to diminish ourselves because I feel like I'm the only one talking like this. Well, it's because that's your job.
Yeah, that's
your
good.
job is to say that. Your job is to bring that thing that you are. So do it.
Yeah, don't feel pity about being the only person.
That's
Be the
why
only
you're
person.
at the table. Like you're at the table to bring
Yeah,
that.
that's
So
really
you're
good.
called to this uniquely. Keep bringing what you're uniquely called to do and do your own work. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should all pause and look and thank everybody out there that's a second chair, middle. You have been seen today.
Yeah.
I hope that you've heard things and you're like, yes, finally someone's saying it. We see you and we appreciate you and everything that you do. And I hope if you're a first chair leader that you've seen and heard insights that might give clarity to your team. And if you are not in great relationship with some of your lead team, let's work on it. Let's get that fixed. So I pray that it was encouraging to you today. Hope it lifted you up and gave you some encouragement. If you know somebody that needs to hear this, see this, hit that copy button, copy paste, hit a text, send it to 10 guys, let them see it, 10 girls, and help your teams grow. Help your teams grow. So go to ReLeader.co. Tons of resources there. Subscribe, comment, like. Love you guys. Until next time, go fix something.